Welcome to tonight's ACC edition of the Klown Podcast. I'm Scott Burks. Please check me out on my sports blog at www.theclowntimes.net. You see it here. And speaking of which, you can get the merchandise at cafepress.com, search for Clown Time Sports. You'll find the link under the description under this video. And two more things. You can find me on Facebook, where you like where you're your smartphone, laptop, desktop, wherever it may be. Just type in the Clown Times in the description window. You'll find it there as well. I'm posting a lot of sophomore humorous football stuff, so check it out there. And other people have stuff to say there as well. And last but not least, please consider to like, comment, share, and subscribe. Even if you do not agree with what myself or my guests has to say about ACC football and basketball, sure, you probably don't agree with it, but hey, either way, please comment. We have a good time with it, because either way, you'll be glad you did, and I'll be glad you did. And speaking of ACC athletics, I got my guy back in the house. You guys know him from All Sports Discussion, ACC Sports Blog. Jeff Fan is back in the house. How you doing, sir?
How you doing? Good, Scott. Glad to be on.
Right on, right on. So let's get to it, my man. So, this is middle bowl season, right? And we all know that, fortunately, ACC will not be participants in the college football playoff for the second year in a row. Kind of get the feeling of how, like, the Pac-12 has been feeling, right? Because the Pac-12 hasn't been back there in a minute. But nevertheless.
And missed it again. And they missed it again.
And they missed it again. When they had a chance, they missed it again.
Yes.
Utah Utes, man. They played a hell of a game. But anyway, man, as far as ACC teams ranked in the college football playoff is concerned, Clemson's finished the season ranked 7th. Florida State's 13th. And the NC State is up to 23rd. Of course, the Tar Heels dropped out with that big loss in the ACC championship game. This one thing that's been on my mind, man. Seeing how Clemson just easily dispatched Carolina in the conference championship game. And I hate playing the game What If, but you know what? There's a show on Disney Plus called What If, which I love. I love all things Marvel, by the way. I'm a comic book geek. But nevertheless, I have to ask this question, man. I always say that loyalty almost always gets you one or two things. Either some either some adulation or being fired, right? As far as that goes, or in trouble rather. And it seems like Dabo Swinney's loyalty to DJ or DJU, as I call him, I can't pronounce the last name. It seems that to me that caused him a spot at Clemson, a shot at being in the college football playoff, because just plain and simple, if Clemson had beaten South Carolina, they would have been the 4th spot over Ohio State. I don't care what anybody says, because they would have been they would have been a 1-loss conference champ instead of a 2-loss conference champ. Yep. So that would have gotten them above Alabama and Tennessee. That would have gotten them out of the equation, and Ohio State, because Ohio State got boat raced at home the very last game of the regular season, and they didn't even compete for their conference title. So with that said, is there some juice to that? Do you think I'm off base with that statement, or did Dabo Swinney's loyalty really cost Clemson a shot at the college football
playoff? I think it did. In a way, you kind of admire it, because you say, hey, he really stuck by his guy. He tried to do everything he could possibly do to make DJ Uiagalelei a successful quarterback at Clemson. Mm-hmm. He stuck with him. When DJ struggled, he didn't cast blame. I mean, he really tried to make him the guy, and it just didn't work out. And I do think it cost Clemson a playoff spot, because I know that North Carolina is suspect on defense. There's no question about that. But DJ wasn't moving the ball on anybody right now. I mean, he was struggling to put drives together at all. I mean, even against North Carolina, it was 3 and out. First drive, ball in the ground, 2-yard pass, and then he missed a wide open receiver. And as soon as Klubnik comes in, I mean, the offense is as dynamic as we'd seen the entire year, save that Wake Forest game where DJ was really good. And I mean, he just it's just different when he's back there. I mean, he scans the field better. He looks more polished. He moves his feet. He keeps his head up. And I mean, they almost beat South. They came within 1 point of beating South Carolina. They had multiple turnovers in that game, and DJ has 99 yards, and they almost, knocked off a South Carolina team that boat raced Tennessee the week before. So just with just a little bit more offensive output, they're probably winning that game by a couple touchdowns.
Right.
And that second half, your offense needed a spark in the second half of that South Carolina game. And I think what happened was, most of that second half of that game, Clemson had a 9-point lead by more than a touchdown. I think he just tried to coax it to get to the finish line, and he ended up paying for it. So I mean, Dabo, he's one of the best coaches in the country, but I think if he really would sit down, he'd probably say, "Yeah, I messed that one up.
Yeah,
I stuck with DJ too long on that one."
And I think he would too. I totally agree with you, dude, because I mean, say what you want about Dabo. That man is loyal, like a dog. He is loyal.
Yeah.
But he could be loyal to a fault, and that's what happened in this case here. Now, it's my understanding that Cade, he's a true freshman, right? The backup and name only. He was a true freshman, right?
Yeah, he was a true freshman, but he's been on campus since January. He was in the spring game.
Okay, right.
And that's another thing. He looked better than DJ in the spring game. I mean,
that's
everyone
right.
could see it. And then, that's when Dabo was still like, "Yeah, he's my guy. I'm like, I don't know. I mean, maybe he's doing something else in practice, but Cade looked better in the spring game."
I guess they didn't want to hand it to a kid. He just got on campus. I think he was just loyal. I think he's old school, that not wanting to hand over to a freshman right away. But I think he was just loyal to DJ to a fault. Now, Cade is also a 5-star. Is that correct too? Isn't he a 5-star?
Yeah, I think he was a number 1 or number 2 rated quarterback in high school last year. I mean, he was definitely a top 5. I mean, he came in with all the high school accolades, and he was a big time recruit for Dabo. And I mean, I guess you can understand, I guess, where DJ started out the season, and then he had that good little run where he played, exceptional against Wake Forest. They beat NC State, but that Notre Dame game, well, starting with the Syracuse game where they almost lost, and Cade had to bail him out, help bail him out of that game.
Yeah,
it just kind of just started going south for DJ after that Syracuse game, and he never could get it back. He never even looked close to getting it back. And then, the South Carolina loss and the way he started against North Carolina. Yeah, I mean, it just, I don't know what else you could say. He just stuck with him too long. And, now we're going to see what Cade can do against Tennessee in the bowl game. And, I'm not saying Clemson's going to win that game, but I got a feeling that he's going to put up some good numbers in that game.
And Tennessee's defense is suspect as well. But one more thing about DJU, man. It's I don't want to say funny in a funny haha way, but it's just weird how, it's how things, it's like with all the big muscles these young men have, these athletes, and DJU's a big dude.
Yeah.
He's bigger than me. He's 6'5" or 6'6". I'm 6'4". But the thing is that all the muscles in the body, the strongest muscle continues to be what's up here, the brain.
Right. Yep.
And the mind is so powerful. And to see that young man, who I think is a good young man. I mean, I hadn't heard him whine or complain to anybody. He says all the right things. His teammates love him. The coaching staff loves him. Hence Dabo being loyal to him this entire time. It's just from that one appearance he made against Notre Dame a couple of seasons ago, right? When he subbed for injured Trevor Lawrence, when he just lit up Notre Dame, albeit lost, but he lit him up. And so we're all thinking, well, shoot, Clemson's not going to skip a beat with this young man.
Right.
But it's been going south, man. And I feel bad for him. And so now, as one would expect, he's in the transfer portal. So I think, I don't know where he's going to go. He's a West Coast kid, but seems like USC and UCLA both have their guys. I don't know. I don't know where he's gonna go, but he just needs, I think a fresh start would obviously help this kid, who's still a pretty young guy.
Yeah.
And, I think he'll be fine in a different location. That's not to clown or just cast aspersions to Clemson's system or schooling or campus or anything or atmosphere. I just think it's one of those cases where he just needs a fresh start. And hopefully this kid will regain his form and, go on to whatever he's predestined to go on to.
Yeah. I mean, that's true. I mean, he's got all the talent, the natural ability in the world. I mean, he can, he can throw the ball like 60 yards downfield with just his arm.
Right.
And, you see some quarterbacks, it's like everything they can do to get the ball down the field. And, I've seen him we've seen him make throws that are just like, oh my gosh, that's like Aaron Rodgers back there or something,
Sure, of course. Yes,
but
great talent.
yeah, but like you said, for him, it was all mental. And, when he lost his confidence and when he loses his confidence, it just goes south. And I think it just worked out for everyone in the end that, just let him find a fresh start, see if he can rebuild his confidence. Because, everyone says he is a stand-up individual. And, you hope he finds success. But, the time ran out at Clemson.
It did. It really did. And they'll be back next year, I think. Clemson will. And I'm hoping that DJU lands on his feet somewhere. He will because he's talented. Let's just face it. But either way, I think change of scenery next year would be great for both parties.
Yeah.
And hopefully it'll be a win-win, which I think it will. Before we go on, let's give a shout out to my sponsor for quick, BetUs.com. So listen up, sports bettors. Your favorite sports book, BetUs.com, is back for our 20th year NFL action with the industry's biggest sign-up bonus up to 200%. BetUS offers our members the opportunity to cash in on all your favorite sports, including NFL, UFC, and MLB. And if you're looking for live in-game betting with incredible odds, daily odds boosters, props, and parlays, we got them. And how about fast payouts and exceptional one-on-one customer service? We got that too. So log into betus.com or call 800-792-3887. That's 800-79-BET-US. You can use the promo code TKT for like Klown times as well. BetUS.com, where the game begins. All right, man. Let's stick with college football and talk about the news of the coaching changes, coaching carousel. and the big shot that I did not see coming, maybe you didn't see coming either. Scott Satterfield leaves Louisville to go to coach here at the University of Cincinnati. I did not see that move coming. I know the fan base here, the UC fan base here in town, are kind of like, meh. I don't know what to make of it. It ranges from, like cool to what in the world, right? Because you lost Luke Fickell, the great Luke Fickell, to Wisconsin because essentially Wisconsin made him an offer that he could not refuse and which UC could not match. So all the financials were surrounded. And then of course, like Louisville has Brohm coming back. There's native son coming back to coach them as well. Got him from Purdue, which they should have won in the first place over Satterfield. Let's just be honest. But if you're a Louisville fan base, let's just I mean, because they're happy. They have to be happy that Brohm is coming back. So let's just focus from the Satterfield point of view. How hard do you think that Louisville is laughing at University of Cincinnati right now for taking him, essentially taking Satterfield off of their hands?
They're feeling pretty good. I mean, when I saw that, the first thing I thought was like, that is really weird. Why Cincinnati would go, after Scott Satterfield, because they've kind of, like you said, with Luke Fickell, they've kind of established themselves as a pretty strong program. They're joining the Big 12. Right. And I mean, that went so fast. I mean, if they'd been searching for, 8 weeks or something, and then he's announced, but that was a pretty short coaching search to end up with Satterfield. And, the consensus is pretty much that they downgraded. And, Louisville fans weren't too happy with Satterfield the last few years. I mean, he can't beat Kentucky.
Right.
At the beginning of the year, I mean, they were really ready to fire him until they kind of, got on a little bit of a run here towards the end. But he also was like looking at other coaching jobs a couple years ago. I mean, they were not happy with him at all. And then they end up with Jeff Brohm, who was the guy they wanted a couple of years ago. So
right?
yeah, they're really happy with how it turned out.
And as I understood it, man, Louisville was having attendance problems the last couple of years, by and large, because of the performance of the football team and the fact that they just wanted Satterfield out. I think it's interesting. I don't know how true the rumors were, man, that if Louisville were to lose, if they would have lost that game to Virginia early in the season, that I think that the rumors were that he was going to be fired right on the tarmac if they lost that Virginia game. I don't know how true that was, but nevertheless, to your point, they went on a run after that. And to the point where they were only 1 point away, in Boston College away from 1 point being, I think, like 7-3 or something like that, right? So,
Yeah.
and in the thick of things. So, yeah, I think, yeah, this move had to be made because the way he flirted with the South Carolina job, boy, went to Shane Beamer. He was had 1 foot out the door. Let's just be honest. And maybe he knew that the Louisville fan base did not really want him. Maybe he knew that the fan base and the brass still had eyes for Jeff Brohm. Maybe. But the fact of the matter is you can't openly flirt with a job while you already have him. Right. And I think it was just time for both parties to move on. And they did. And again, I think this, from Louisville's perspective, it's a total win-win.
Oh yeah,
to get the guy they didn't want for the guy they really wanted.
they won out on that exchange big time.
Yeah.
And I was listening to like a national radio show the other day, and I don't remember who it was, but somebody was like, "Oh, this is something the ACC needs to look at. You know, they just lost one of their coaches to to Cincinnati." And I'm thinking like, why they need to look at it? This is a win. This worked out in their favor. They didn't lose anybody. They upgraded.
Right. It does show you who really pays attention to college football, who doesn't,
Yeah,
whoever said something like
exactly.
that. I mean, they're not obviously weren't paying attention, but either way, Satterfield is on his feet at a Big 12 program, and Louisville got the guy that they want. So again, it's a win-win. Scott Satterfield won. He's out of town. He's at a place where, I mean, it's going to be tough for him to live up to the status that Luke Fickell built Cincinnati. I mean, he took him to the stratosphere, and Cincinnati's at a point where they're expected to compete now. They're expected to compete. There's no more excuses.
Yeah.
So we'll see, man. But good for Louisville.
Yeah.
They got their guy. Either way, they finally got their guy. He's an offensive mind. He's got a dude balling, and we'll see. We'll see. That's the beautiful part about this stuff. We'll just see. But I was going to say one last thing about football. Oh yeah, one last thing about this, man. And we could continue this in another podcast another time very quickly. But what's going on with Miami? 5-7 and missed out on the bowl. Should Miami fans be concerned, but not be concerned, but should they be panicking over the Mario Cristobal hire? Should they give him more time? I think they should give him more time, but should Miami fans be talked off the ledge, or should they just worry about Cristobal, even just 1 year in?
I mean, one year is not time to hit the panic button.
Sure.
But there are a lot of red flags. When a season goes as badly as it did for Miami, there's red flags out there, and I think one of the things with Cristobal is he's a really stubborn coach. I mean, he had Herbert up there in Oregon, and people were talking about how he didn't utilize his talent up there, and then he has Van Dyke down in Miami and has the exact same problem, and that's a red flag. He's got two one bona fide NFL quarterback that he handcuffed, and another that entered the season as an NFL prospect that really struggled during the course of the year. And they played, they were such a mess by the end of the year, and they just kept getting worse and worse. They go to they go play Florida State and get absolutely,
They got
routed in
killed.
that game,
Right.
and you know that's going to be used against them in any kind of Florida recruiting. So I mean,
Oh, heck
I
yeah.
don't think it's quite time to hit the panic button, but there's some red flags there that Miami fans might want to look. I mean, another season like that, and you've really got a problem. But I mean, he is recruiting well. They seem to have a really good handle how to use the NIL there in Miami, which I think is going to benefit them. And it's already
Yeah.
benefited them in recruiting. So I mean, on that side of it, I think he's doing well. But the season itself was an absolute disaster. It couldn't really have gone worse for Miami. They were one of the most disappointing teams in the country this side of Texas A&M, who they actually lost to.
I know. Isn't that
Yeah,
wild?
yeah, I know.
God. Oh my God. Well, yeah. I mean, look, I grew up a Florida State football fan before I went to NC State. So I really don't like Miami anyway, but I just want because so it tickles me to see all this anyway. But look, we're both ACC guys, right? And for the ACC to get the billing that we think it deserves, that it should get, Miami has to be. That just has to be it. Miami has to be, right? Florida State's on the up and up. I think they're going to be damn good next year. Clemson's Clemson. You don't have to worry about that. But Miami has to be Miami for this league to go further.
Yeah, I
Right.
mean, they don't necessarily have to be like Jimmy Johnson,
Sure.
Miami,
Sure.
but I mean, they can't be like 5-win Miami. I mean,
Right.
you know, um,
Oh God, definitely not.
if they're just like top 25 or fringe top 25 where they're winning 8 or 9 games,
Mhm.
that would be enough to catch a lot of people's attention. But the level that they're at, now, you're right. It's unacceptable in Miami, especially with, you know, being able to recruit in South Florida and the talent that's available in that
Right.
state to be as bad as they are for this long. I mean, Mark Richt gave a glimpse of what it could look like. I mean, he had a
Mhm.
couple of pretty good seasons. He had the one year, a couple of years back, where they had that huge Notre Dame win and got into the top
Yes.
5. And I mean, you saw it was you know, again, like a full stadium down there, electric atmosphere. I mean, that looked like the Miami of old. So we know it's in there.
Mhm.
And it brought all this kind of national attention, but they can't be this bad. I mean, they were, when you look across the ACC, there might have been like a couple teams worse than Miami. That's how bad they were.
God. Yeah, whenever you're in the category of both Virginia schools and Boston College, you know you're bad,
Yeah,
especially with
yeah.
all that talent that Miami has. Now, maybe to your point, Chris Ball is a hell of a recruiter. So maybe he'll use the transfer portal to get some of the guys in that fits his program. And in that locker room, from what I've read and understood under Manny Diaz, was pretty much successful anyway in terms of lack of accountability. So maybe he can weed those guys out, and bring his own guys in, whether it's him hitting the recruiting trail or bringing guys from the transfer portal. But either way, man, at the end of the day, it's Miami. They're not supposed to be 5-win Miami. They're not supposed to be worse than Syracuse. No disrespect to Syracuse. They're Miami. They shouldn't be getting trounced by Pitt. They're Miami. Okay. They're freaking Miami. All right. But the good news is, before we turn the page on this, there'll be no more divisions next year. Maybe that will help the conference championship matchups. Because let's face it, most of the power was in the Atlantic anyway. So we had the same system that we're going to have next year. This year would have been Clemson and Florida State. Would have been a better game, in my opinion. I would have signed up to see that again. I don't know about most people, but anyway, would have been a better outcome than Clemson, the Carolina game. But nevertheless, maybe Maybe Miami have a shot next year. Who the hell knows? But it's just baffling and funny as hell to me again because I'm a Florida State football fan. So it out of way it's funny. Let's get you out of here on this, man. From the highs a little bit to the lowest of lows. That's ACC basketball, men's basketball. The women's is great. Women's great. No problem with the women's. Even though I'm wondering what's happening with Louisville right now. Maybe Louisville's just cursed all the way because the men's team is horrible and the women's team is underachieving, in my opinion. But other than that, the ACC women's great. I put them amongst the best in all college basketball, period. But the men that we grew up loving, the men's basketball that we grew up loving, man, only 2 ranked ACC teams in the top 25. Carolina goes from number 1 to unranked. They were exposed as frauds. You had Boston College losing to New Hampshire at home. What's going on, man? Should I just pull the plug on this season and just go into the fetal position and just look forward to the NCAA tournament? What's happened to ACC basketball?
I'm gonna put a positive spin on this for you,
Please
Scott.
because I need something.
It's not as bad as it appears.
Right.
But there is a problem though with Louisville, Florida State. They're absolute drags on the conference right now.
God, yes.
They have 1 win in between. I'm trying to remember how many losses they got between the two.
17.
17 losses.
17. Yeah.
They're I don't remember if it was the net ranking or the RPI, but in one of them, Louisville was like 360 out of 362 teams, and especially Louisville is absolutely atrocious. They're an atrocious basketball team, absolutely. At least Florida State's showing a little bit of life. They hung right there with Purdue at home in the ACC Big Ten challenge, and played Virginia really close. So,
right.
I think they're starting to show some signs of life, but that's also a problem for the ACC because their computer numbers are so bad that if they start playing better and win like 7 or 8 ACC games, they're going to pull down the teams they beat. Say if Miami's on the bubble or something and they knock off Miami, they're just going to sink those numbers. Right. So the problem is Louisville atrocious, Florida State, terrible computer numbers and resume. Boston College is absolutely awful. And those 3 in particular are just a tremendous, anchor on the conference. And we already saw, a little bit of this last week with Syracuse, who'd been off to a horrible start. They go to Notre Dame in South Bend and knock them off, and that just sinks Notre Dame.
Yeah.
Pitt was struggling out of conference earlier in the year. Now they didn't have any of the bad losses that Louisville and Florida State have.
They got that going for them. They have no bad losses so far.
They had no bad losses, but they had some blowout losses. They go on the road at Northwestern, but then they go and win in Raleigh, knock off NC State, and that pulls down the Wolfpack. So the problem is it's not that the ACC conference, the conference itself is like this terrible basketball conference. I would take 1 through 10 in the ACC against any conference. Sure. The problem is the bottom 4 or 5 teams that really drags it down. And you can see this because everyone's calling the Big Ten, the best or second best basketball conference, in America. They're going to be 9-10 bid league. Well, I'm pretty sure I just watched, about 15, 16 games between the 2 conferences, and the ACC won 11 of them.
Yes, we did.
And this is where the good part starts coming in. They had the ACC Big Ten Challenge. The ACC won 8-6, and that was with North Carolina sinking as you described it. Virginia, they might be the best team in college basketball.
They got great wins, dude.
They got great wins. They've beaten Baylor. They beat a really, really good Illinois team, and then they won at Michigan in a fist fight of a game.
Mm-hmm.
So, they have arguably the best resume in the country. Duke is starting to come alive here. They lost earlier in the year to Kansas, got beat up pretty good by Purdue, but in the last couple weeks, they beat a solid Ohio State team and beat an Iowa team that many thought is a tournament level team and
Right.
handled them pretty well.
Right.
That Duke team is growing up because they can play defense.
They're young. They're very young.
Exactly.
Yeah.
They're young.
Mhm.
They're really talented. They play defense. And if they start shooting the ball well from the perimeter, they can be a top 5 team as well. They're just lacking a little bit of outside shooting right now, but they're starting to find themselves. Virginia Tech, that's a really good
They're a good
basketball
team.
team.
They're a good team, man. They should
Yep.
be ranked. I thought they would be ranked.
Yep, they should be ranked between Mutz and Padula. That's a pretty good 1-2 combination right there. Miami, they can score with anyone.
Yeah.
And they knocked off we're talking about that challenge. They knocked off Rutgers. Rutgers just beat Indiana.
Right.
And so they got the loss to Maryland, but Isaiah Wong and those guards, you don't want to face them because they can put up points. You look a little bit further down the line, Wake Forest, one of the best wins of any ACC team, wins at Wisconsin.
Yeah, that was a great win. That was a great win.
Exactly, that was a great win. I mean, you're not going to find hardly anyone that goes into Madison and comes out of there with a W, and they did. That was a definite marquee win. And next game Wisconsin plays, they beat Marquette, and that Marquette team had been rolling through some opponents. I think they beat Baylor. They ran Baylor out, out of the gym. So winning at Wisconsin was a big time win. And then another one that's been under the radar, starting to play good basketball, and you're not really thinking about them, is Clemson.
Yeah, they blew out Wake.
They blew out Wake.
They beat them down.
Yeah, in that second half, they just took Wake Forest apart, and that was coming off a double overtime win over a really solid Penn State team.
Right.
And then last night, you're not going to hang a banner for knocking off Towson, but that's a team that's probably going to be in the tournament as well. They probably knocked off 3 tournament quality teams in a row. And with PJ Hall, Hunter Tyson, Gabe Hunter, I mean, they've got balance on that team as well.
Right.
So I mean, you take in North Carolina, I mean, they're just too talented not to find it. I mean, right now their half court offense is a mess. They don't pass the ball to each other. I don't know what's going on. I mean, if they had a Raymond Felton or a quality point guard on that team, I mean, they'd be dynamite. But right now they just don't know how to share the basketball.
They got everybody back from last year though, except for maybe one dude who graduated.
Yeah, Manic, and I think he was. We look at him. Maybe he was the glue guy on that team. The one who kind of was under the radar, but he'd knock down those big shots, get those rebounds, and right now you watch him and you're like, man, these guys are individually really talented, but you put them all together and they just really struggle on the offensive end to generate points because they just don't share the basketball. It's just their offense is basically like dribble, shoot, and but I gotta believe they're gonna go on a run at some point. They're just too talented. So,
right.
When you're looking at the ACC, it's really solid 1 through 9, 1 through 8. I think there's 7 really NCAA quality teams, maybe 8, but where it gets drugged by the bottom because of all those losses. The bottom kills the computer numbers. Those metrics get killed by Louisville and Florida State. They just got so many losses.
Right. Already. I mean, that's just shocking, man. By quick, it's Florida State. Now, I don't know if I heard that they had some injuries, maybe, but a Leonard Hamilton coach team should be 1-9. Head into conference. That's just inexcusable, man. I don't know what's going on in Florida State.
Yeah, I mean, when you watch them, they kind of look like the Florida State teams, but they struggle shooting the ball, and I think they struggle with confidence. I think they're gonna get better. I mean, they're not gonna be in a tournament or anything like that, but I think they're gonna get better. Louisville's the one you watch and you're just like, holy moly, they're so bad. They might be the worst ACC team, one of the worst ones I've ever seen.
Dude, I'm pulling up the schedule right now. It's bad. They lost to Bella. I can't pronounce the name to start the season. Bellarmine or whatever it is. They lost to them. They lost to Wright State. They lost to Appalachian State. And of course, they got hammered by both Arkansas and Texas Tech. They lost to UC. They got spanked by Maryland. They got housed by Miami. I mean, you go back to the top of the list, it's Bellarmine, Wright State, and Appalachian State. I think all three were at home.
Yeah.
And they lost to all of them, albeit by 1 point. But you shouldn't be that close to any of those three teams. That's just bad.
Yeah, it's like when you look at the bad teams in the ACC, Boston College, Georgia Tech, they're like normal bad. Like, oh man, they're kind of bad, but it's like normal bad. But Louisville they're on another level of being awful right now, to the point where some people are questioning whether the players even want to play or even care about it. And I saw that in some notes where the coach was asking, like, do you guys even want to fight? And they have to answer, yeah, but yeah, we do. But
Jesus Christ.
they're just all kinds of messed up at Louisville. Man, yeah. And it's a real drag on the ACC, that's for sure.
It really is, and it's too bad. It's really too bad. I really like the head coach, but I'm worried for them. But I don't know if many of those guys are older from the Chris Mack era, but I don't. It was just Louisville's a hot mess. The basketball program's a hot mess right now. I don't know what's going to take to fix it. But I will say this, man. You mentioned Marquette earlier. Marquette, I think they'll be playing Notre Dame on Sunday. Yeah, they're playing them in South Bend this Sunday. So if Notre Dame I think they're a good team too. I agree. I think they're a good team. They beat the hell out of Michigan State, but during the challenge. But I think once they get that win over Marquette, they'll take the stench of the loss to Syracuse.
Yeah, that's true.
I think they'll take care of that stench. So we'll see, Matt. Look, you talked me off the ledge. I'll give you that. You talked me off the edge. So I'll give it another week and a half, maybe 2 weeks. I'll give it another 2. If Notre Dame beats Marquette and then Virginia Tech, I think Virginia Tech's a strong squad. They should beat Oklahoma State. But if Notre Dame beats Marquette, I'll be okay. I think I'll breathe a little bit if they beat Marquette. And
just don't watch the bottom. Then we can do about that.
Speaking of the bottom, how about that 1 o'clock game on ACC Network? Louisville at Florida State.
Hey, somebody's got to win.
Who the hell is gonna watch that game or even go to the game if you're a Florida State fan? That arena is gonna be half or a third, maybe half or so empty at the very least, half empty. That's a terrible game to have.
That's one of those games only the parents show up.
There you go. That's okay, buddy. You gotta be all right. We're cheering for you. Oh yeah, and last thing, if North Carolina, if they beat Georgia Tech at home, I think they'll be okay too. But they can't lose to Georgia Tech at home. If they do, they have serious problems.
Yeah, exactly. If they lose to Georgia Tech at home, then you got a real issue. Then I don't know if they can recover from that one.
Right, that'd be 5-5.
Georgia Tech did knock off Georgia the other night, which is at least one good moment. For Josh Pastner's team, they're gonna have trouble with North Carolina sides, but at least for that night, they knocked off their arch rival at home, so that was good.
There you go. That's all good. And the LSU plays Wake Forest in the holiday Thanksgiving, so that should be a great game in Atlanta. I'm not worried about Wake Forest tournament chances. As long as they don't take too many bad losses in the conference, I think they'll be fine too. So we'll see, man. I'm trying to keep hope alive. So we'll see how the weekend goes, man.
Give me two out of three of those ones that you mentioned, and I think it'd be successful.
Yeah, I totally agree. So Notre Dame, keep an eye on you guys.
Yep.
Get rid of the Syracuse loss stench. Speaking of Syracuse, they play Georgia at home. So I'm keeping an eye on you guys too. All right, man. So where can they find you in your great work?
Yeah, you can find me blogging on the ACC at allsportsdiscussion.com, and on Twitter, taking in the games at Talking ACC Sports. And yeah, as always, enjoy being on the show, Scott.
And I always enjoy having you on and in your in your cohort, Matthew Warner as well. So AKA Hokey Smash on Twitter, by the way. He's a great follow on Twitter. All right, man. So thank you all for tuning in the show. Maybe, just maybe, the ACC basketball fortunes will change over the weekend for the better. Who knows? But anyway, please check out Jeff Fenn's great work, as he stated on All Sports Discuss ACC Sports blog. And also, please check me out at www.contimes.net. Check out my merch at kevinpress.com. And remember to like, comment, share, and subscribe whenever you feel like it. Because either way, you'll be glad you did, and I'll be glad you did. Take care. Have a wonderful weekend. Peace out.